My name is Vivian Evers. I'm 44 years old. And if you asked anyone in Cooper Hollow, they'd say I have the kind of life most women would envy. A solid career in historical restoration, a beautiful home tucked beneath the pines, and a second husband who always remembered to smile in church. But that's the part they never ask about, the second husband. Not the man I built a life with. Not the father of my daughter. Dean Alcott came later, with charm too polished and a past too vague. Most of the women in town bought it. Isla never did. And if I'm being honest, neither did I, not entirely. There were cracks. Secrets that didn't fit. A phone that never left his pocket. A new lock on the basement I didn't ask for. I should have known something was coming. I just didn't expect it to begin at the dinner table, with a bottle of red wine, my daughter home from college, and Dean announcing he was selling our house to make room for his girlfriend and her children. And I definitely didn't expect what I would hand him next. The wine glass was still warm from his hand when he said it. "We're selling the house," Dean said as if announcing dessert. "Sylvie and the boys need more room." The words hung in the air, sticky like smoke. The fork in Isla's hand clinked against the plate. Turkey, cranberry sauce, mashed potatoes. All of it froze mid-chew, like the entire dinner had been staged for something uglier. "You're... what?" I asked, not raising my voice. I didn't need to. "I've spoken with a realtor," Dean continued, sipping calmly. "Papers are being drawn. It's already in motion." Isla's eyes darted to mine. I saw it, panic turning into fury. He didn't look at either of us. He just smirked down at his plate, like he'd just played the last move in a long, quiet game. "You've been lying to us," Isla snapped. To her. "No," Dean wiped his mouth with a cloth napkin. "I've been doing what's best for everyone. You're almost out of college. Vivian, you'll be fine. This house is a building, not a person." Funny. That's what cowards say before they run. There's a saying my mother used to have. When someone shows you who they are, believe them, especially when they think you're too polite to look. I stood up slowly, ignoring the tremor in my knees, walked to the sideboard, opened the bottom drawer, pulled out the envelope. Done. Worn. Sealed tight. Dean's eyes finally moved. I placed it beside his glass. "If you're making announcements," I said, "then you should read this first." He paused, looked at me, then peeled it open. Inside, the original deed. My name and only my name. The notarized amendment from 7 years ago, where I retained sole ownership. And a copy of the prenuptial clause that stated, clearly, any sale of the house required my explicit written approval. Dean blinked. "Vivian, you should have checked whose name was on the deed, Dean." He sat back pale. Isla didn't move. She didn't breathe. The fire cracked behind us. Outside, the wind picked up. Dean laughed. Just once. Tight. Too late. "Well," he said, "then I guess we'll need a different plan." His phone buzzed on the table. A name flashed. Sylvie Oldkey. He didn't pick it up. I did. And then I walked out of the room. Dean didn't say another word that night. He just stood there, stiff as a corpse, then walked out the front door without his coat. The door slammed once. Then again. I didn't hear the engine start. I waited, counted 15 full minutes in silence before moving. Isla watched me like I might crack. "You okay?" she asked. "No," I said, "but I'm ready." We didn't sleep. Just sat in the living room with all the lights on, the fire down to cold embers. I was holding my coffee like a weapon. Isla had my laptop open, her fingers moving fast. She pulled up our cell phone account, linked through our family plan, and traced Dean's calls over the past 3 months. One number repeated more than any other. She clicked into it. The registered location popped up. Redline Heights, 2 hours west, known for its backroom real estate deals and cash-only developments. "He called her 39 times last month," Isla said. "Guess she's more than a new friend." "She's not just a mistress," I murmured. "She's leverage." The next morning I called Jules. Jules Rayner was my late husband's attorney, a man who never forgot a signature, never trusted a handshake, and had once told me, always assume someone's trying to sell your soul. Then check the paperwork to confirm it. He met me at his office above the hardware store on Main Street. No secretary, just Jules in a threadbare vest, glasses dangling from his neck, and a pair of files already laid out before I walked in. You were right not to sign anything, he said. Dean tried to use a quitclaim deed 2 weeks ago. Falsified your signature. I blinked. Isn't that illegal? Jules nodded. Forgery. Fraud. He also applied for a second mortgage behind your back. Denied, thankfully. He didn't have the title, but he was close. The room tightened around me. What was he trying to buy? I asked. Jules slid another file across the table. A preliminary agreement between Dean Alcott and Moreland Redevelopment LLC. A shell company, likely. The contract was labeled Asset Transfer, Urgent Priority. Conditions: vacant premises by January 10th. Isla had been right. They weren't just trying to sell the house. They were planning to clear it. I got home just after 3. Isla was pacing the kitchen, her phone clenched in her hand. I think someone's been in the garage, she said. I followed her outside. The side door was open, swinging slightly. Inside, the cabinet where we kept old tax records was rifled through. Papers scattered, but only one thing missing. The small gray lockbox where I'd stored my first husband's documents, marriage license, his old military records, a copy of the house deed. Gone. I checked the keypad lock on the back door. The last 4 digits had been changed. He's already covering his tracks, I muttered. Then so do we, Isla said. That night I couldn't sleep. I lay in bed listening. The wind against the windows, the boiler ticking, and under that nothing. No car, no footsteps, just silence thick enough to drown in. Then, thud. I sat up. Another sound near the front door. Isla's room was dark. I moved quietly, heart thumping loud enough I thought it would wake the walls. Peeked through the peephole. No one. Then I saw it on the floor. A plain white envelope. Slid halfway through the doorframe. No postage. No return address. I picked it up, hands shaking. Inside, a photograph of Isla, taken from across the street. She was walking alone near the college library. The timestamp, 3 days ago. No message. Just the photo. My breath froze in my lungs. I stepped outside. The street was empty. No tire tracks in the snow. Just footprints. Leading away. At dawn, Isla called out, Mom, you need to see this. She had logged into Dean's bank account through a link he'd once used on our shared desktop. One access led to another. Buried beneath a shell of dummy transactions was a safe deposit rental listed under D. Alcott / Merland. A joint account. Not just a love affair. A partnership. Worse, a digital receipt for a wire transfer, $375,000 from a private equity fund tied to Redline Heights Holdings. Where's the rest of this money going? I whispered. Isla's lips trembled. That's the thing, it's not just going. She pulled up a PDF from our printer tray. A fax confirmation. Dean had scheduled a document drop tomorrow at 10 a.m. to an address registered as a strategic exit consultant. Code for laundering firm. I grabbed my coat. Where are you going? Isla asked. To find out how deep this hole goes. You think it gets worse? I paused at the door. Sweetheart, it always gets worse before it burns. Mom, they're not just taking the house. They're erasing us. Snow hit the windshield in diagonal sheets as I pulled into the lot behind Jules's office. My breath fogged the inside of the glass. My hands wouldn't stop shaking, even with the heat blasting. The photo of Isla was still in my coat pocket, folded, damp, burned into my brain. I slammed the car door shut harder than I meant to. Inside, Jules had already locked the blinds. The door was chained. A kettle hissed on the hot plate near the windowsill. He didn't look up when I came in, just spoke low. Someone tried to breach my email. Yesterday. I froze. How do you know? He turned the laptop toward me. Login attempts. 1 in state. 1 from an untraceable VPN. I use an old firewall. Not perfect, but annoying. Whoever it was, they knew what they were after. My stomach twisted. They're accelerating. He knows we're digging. Jules nodded. And I've found something. He opened a folder labeled Alcott Trust/Inheritance Hold. Dean didn't come from nothing. Not really. His first marriage ended messy, but he walked away with stocks in a holding company registered in Georgia. That company was renamed last year. To what? Chimera Financial. I blinked. That's the group tied to the Redline Heights Fund. Jules gave a tight smile. Exactly. He handed me a printed spreadsheet. Transaction history. One caught my eye. December 3rd, wire transfer to Conrad L. Merrick, $45,000 memo. Consultation/Alcott exit strategy. What the hell is a Merrick? I whispered. A cleaner, Jules said. Someone you call when a divorce would cost too much. Someone who solves loose ends. I felt my throat go dry. So it's not about love, I said slowly. It's liquidation. Jules didn't blink. It's risk management. I got back to the house after sundown. All the lights were off. I left them on. I froze on the porch. Keys in hand. Door cracked open. Then movement. A shadow cutting across the hallway. Fast. Small. Not Dean. I eased the door open. Isla. Nothing. Just the creak of floorboards and the low hum of the fridge. I stepped inside. Closed the door. Locked it. Then I saw it on the counter. A burner phone. Still warm. One message on the screen. Hold tight. She's not alone. I backed away. Then a voice behind me. Don't move. I spun. A woman stood in the hallway. Maybe early 40s, wind-chapped face, sharp coat, hand in her pocket like she was holding a knife. Loretta, I said, breathless. She nodded. You have 5 minutes. Sit down. She didn't pull a knife. She pulled a badge. Financial Crimes Division, former. Retired, not rusty. I used to chase men like Dean, but they've evolved. Slicker now. Less paper, more ghost money. I stared at her. You're Sylvie's sister. She raised an eyebrow. That what he told you? I nodded. She smirked. Wrong, Sylvie. Pause. Dean's working with someone who used that name, sure. But the woman you're picturing doesn't exist. She's a composite. I tried to process that. Loretta tossed a manila folder on the table. Inside, DMV photos, 2 expired passports, a gun license. Same face. 3 names. He's not trying to sell your house, Loretta said. He's using it as collateral for a broader deal, land laundering. Redline Heights is a ghost project. Money in, property on paper, no physical build. Then it folds. He walks. And we lose everything. You lose more if you stay. I heard a door slam upstairs. We both turned. Footsteps. I rushed up the stairs. Loretta followed. The attic door was open. Isla. I called. No answer. Then I saw it, her backpack half-zipped slung on the floor. Open. Her laptop gone. On the desk, a single note. Don't come looking. I have to finish what Dad started. My chest caved. No, I whispered. No, no, no. Loretta stepped beside me, read the note, cursed under her breath. He didn't take her, I said. She went to him. Then my phone buzzed. Unknown number. 1 line of text. Meet me where it ended. You have until midnight. And attached a live GPS pin. She had walked straight into his hands. The GPS pin pulsed on my screen like a heartbeat. A pulsing that leading straight into the woods west of Cooper Hollow, the old quarry road. The place where Dean once crashed his truck in a drunken rage 5 years ago. The place Isla still refused to drive past. Where it ended, I whispered. That's what he meant. Loretta zipped her coat. We go together. You never walk alone into someone else's leverage. Her voice cut through the cold air. Steady. Trained. There was a saying she'd thrown at me earlier. Fear keeps you alive. Panic gets you killed. I held onto that now as we stepped into the snow. Cut scene. Black trees. White snow. Our boots cracking ice with every step. Loretta in front. Me behind. Breath sharp as knives. The wind carried sound strangely out there. Far away. Echoed. Offbeat. Then. Snap. Both of us froze. A branch breaking. Too clean to be wind. Loretta's hand touched her jacket. We're not alone. Her voice was barely audible. We reached the clearing by the quarry's edge. An old observation shack stood crooked under the weight of snow. Boards warped. Windows dark. No footprints except one set. Isla's. Leading in. My chest collapsed in on itself. I'm going in, I said. Loretta scanned the treeline. I'll cover the perimeter. Call backup. She shook her head. Out of range. This place is a dead zone. Of course, Dean chose it. I opened the shack door. The hinges screamed. The smell hit first, motor oil, wet rope, cold wood. Then I saw the table. Papers. USB drives. A ledger book. Burn marks around a metal bin. Like someone had been destroying evidence fast. And in the corner, Mom. Isla. Hands zip-tied. Lip bleeding. Eyes wild. She struggled to sit upright. He said you'd come alone. I knelt, cutting the ties with a rusted utility knife left on the ground. You shouldn't be here, she whispered. Dean's not who you think he is. I know, I said. I know now. No, her breath shook. Not like this. Then she pointed at the wall behind me. A hole in the boards. A lens glinting. A camera feed. Someone was watching. A floorboard creaked outside. Footsteps. Slow. Heavy. Not Loretta. Isla flinched. He's back. I grabbed her hand and pulled her behind the table, searching for anything resembling a weapon. A broken broom handle. A rusted crowbar. A metal thermos. The doorknob turned. Then, not a sound. A man murmured behind the door. We do this clean. Not Dean's voice. Lower. Rougher. Controlled. The door burst open. A man stepped in. Broad shoulders, shaved head, a scar running across his jaw. Dressed in black. Conrad. I recognized him from the photo Jules showed me earlier. Consultation payment. $45,000. A cleaner. His eyes swept the room. He clocked the broken ties. The open window. The footprints. You moved faster than I expected, he said. Smart, but not smart enough. He reached inside his jacket. Gun. I pulled Isla closer. Conrad lifted the weapon, not at me. At her. Dean wants the girl, he said. But I'm not here for Dean. I'm tying off loose ends. He stepped closer. No hesitation. No emotion. He was going to shoot my daughter 10 feet from me. I stood. Take me instead. He smirked. That's the funny thing about you people. You always think you're the center of the story. I moved in front of Isla. Conrad raised the gun. And then, a gunshot cracked from outside. Conrad jerked sideways, hit the wall hard, and fired blindly into the ceiling. Loretta dove through the doorway, gun drawn. Drop it. Conrad didn't drop it. He lunged. Loretta fired again. They crashed into the table, scattering papers everywhere. The ledger book slid across the floor, pages flipping open. Inside, photos, transaction numbers, bank routing codes, evidence. All of it. Conrad grabbed Loretta's sleeve, yanked her to the ground, tried to aim again, but Isla slammed the metal thermos into his head. Hard. He snarled, tackling her, gun slipping from his hand. I grabbed the crowbar, swung. It connected with his ribs. Once. Twice. He fell sideways, gasping. But not out. He scrambled for the fallen gun. Loretta kicked it away. Vivian, get her out, now. I pulled Isla toward the door. Another shot tore through the wall inches from us. Conrad roared, "You're not walking away from this." We ran into the snow, slipping, sprinting toward the trees. My lungs felt like fire. The wind stabbed my face. Behind us. Shouting. A thud. Another shot. Isla staggered. "Mom, he's coming." No, I tightened my grip. He's buying time. Because Loretta wasn't shooting anymore. He was going to finish her first. I dragged Isla behind a stack of rusted quarry pipes. We crouched low, breathing hard. Snow fell heavier, blanketing everything. Sounds blurred. Then crunch. Footsteps. Close. Too close. I covered Isla's mouth. A shadow passed across the snow. A silhouette. Not Loretta's. Conrad's. He paused, listening, smelling the air like an animal. His boots stopped inches from our hiding place. He whispered into the dark, "Vivian, I know you're here." And that's when I saw it, the bracelet on his wrist. Isla's bracelet. The one stolen from her backpack. The one that meant he'd been inside our house long before tonight. He'd been watching us for weeks. Conrad's boots stopped inches from our hiding place. Snowflakes floated between us. Slow, silent, luminous, while my heartbeat thundered like it wanted out of my chest. He shifted his weight, scanned the tree line, tilted his head like he could hear our breath in the dark. Isla clutched my coat, trembling. I pressed her hand down gently. Stillness is survival. A line I'd once heard. A line I never thought I'd live. Conrad exhaled. A low, cold sound. "You should have stayed in the house, Vivian. I was going to make it easier there." He started walking again. Away from us. 5 steps. 10. Then. He stopped. Turned back. Looking straight toward the pipes where we hid. I didn't breathe. Then. A branch snapped from deeper in the woods. A decoy sound. A distraction. Conrad spun toward it, gun raised. Loretta. She burst through the trees. Blood on her temple. Coat ripped, fury in her eyes. "HUI," she shouted. "Over here." Conrad fired. The bullet hit the pipe behind us, spraying rust. "Run," I whispered to Isla. "Don't look back." Cut scene. Boots slamming through snow. Branches whipping our faces. Isla gasping for air. Gunshots echoing off the quarry walls. My legs burning. The clearing disappeared behind us. We reached the service road, the old gravel path leading back toward the highway. But snow had buried it in uneven drifts. Isla stumbled. I grabbed her arm. "Keep moving," I said, though I could barely breathe. "He won't stop." "There's blood," she whispered, touching my sleeve. "Not mine. Loretta's." I forced down the panic. "There's a line I heard once," I said without thinking. "Bravery isn't loud. It's what's left when fear strips everything else away." Isla nodded weakly. "Then I guess we're brave." Another gunshot cracked behind us. Closer. We moved faster. Cut scene. A truck engine roared in the distance. Headlights cut through the trees. Dean's pickup. He slammed the brakes, so hard the back wheels skidded sideways. He jumped out before the truck fully stopped. "Get in," he barked. I shoved Isla behind me. "Not happening." His breath steamed in the freezing air. His face full of panic, not rage. "He's not working for me anymore," Dean said. "You need to listen. Conrad doesn't take orders. He cleans up loose ends. You hired him, I shot back. I hired someone else, he snapped. He came with the deal. His eyes darted past us into the woods. We have 90 seconds before he reaches this road. I didn't believe him, but I also didn't have 90 seconds to debate it. Then a sound cut from the trees. A low, wet coughing. A stumble. Conrad. Closer. I made the decision before fear could stop me. Isla, get in. She hesitated, but only for a fraction of a second, then climbed into the passenger seat. I got in after her. Dean floored the gas. The truck fishtailed on the icy road, throwing snow in every direction. Where's Loretta? I demanded. Fighting for her life, Dean said through clenched teeth. She slowed him down. That's all she can do. You're disgusting, Isla said. You're using her. I'm trying to keep you alive, he shot back. Both of you. You should have thought of that before forging signatures and buying hitmen, I said. He slammed his fist against the wheel. It wasn't supposed to go this far. I almost laughed. Men like him always said that when the ground finally cracked under them. We hit the main road. For a moment, I let myself think we were safe. Then the truck jerked. Hard. Dean cursed. Tire blew. He pulled over, nearly losing the vehicle in a ditch. I looked back. A spike strip lay half buried in the snow. Conrad had planned the path, planned the escape route, planned every move. We were never supposed to leave that quarry alive. Dean's breathing turned uneven. Give me a second. I can fix. Mom, Isla whispered, pointing out the back window. A figure emerged from the woods. Staggering, gun in hand. Conrad was bleeding, but moving with purpose, determination. Dean reached for the glove compartment. No, I snapped. You've done enough. I grabbed Isla's arm and pushed open the door. Run. We sprinted down the icy shoulder of the road. My lungs felt like I was inhaling glass. Isla slipped twice. I kept pulling. Behind us, Conrad's boots on gravel. Dean shouting something. Another gunshot. We dove behind an abandoned snowplow parked at an angle, half buried in ice. I pressed Isla's head down. Stay low. My phone buzzed in my pocket. A message. Unknown number. Check the engine. I frowned. Then I looked up at the snowplow. Engine compartment cracked open. Inside, a tracker. A black box. Wired to something else. A camera. Someone else was watching too. Someone above Conrad. Above Dean. Another layer. Isla grabbed my sleeve. Mom, that's not his voice. She was right. The sender wasn't Conrad. It wasn't Dean. It was someone else pulling the strings. Someone who knew exactly where we were and what we were hiding behind. A second message came through. 3 words. Move now. Run. And then a third. He's not alone. The second message blinked on my screen like a warning flare in the dark. Move now. Run. He's not alone. A cold shiver cut straight down my spine. Isla looked at me. Mom, what does that mean? Before I could answer, a second figure stepped out of the woods behind Conrad. Smaller, quieter, hood pulled low. A silhouette I recognized only when he lifted his face enough for the moon to catch it. Dean. Not bleeding. Not injured. Not desperate. Calm. He held a shotgun like he'd been practicing in the dark for weeks. Conrad turned, stunned. You should be dead. Dean's eyes barely flickered. You were never paid to think. And then everything exploded at once. Dean fired. Conrad dove. The shotgun blast tore through a pine trunk, showering us with bark. Isla screamed. I grabbed her arm, yanking her toward the ditch on the side of the road. Cut scene. Snow erupting under our boots. The whistle of a second shot. Branches snapping. The smell of gunpowder burning cold air. We slid behind the snowplow. Dean's voice carried through the storm, maddeningly steady. You ruined everything, Vivian. The plan was clean. Simple. But you had to dig. Digging is how you survive, I whispered. Burying is how you rot. Isla tugged at my sleeve. We have to get away from here. Dean kept talking, taunting us, pacing the road like he owned it. You want to know the truth? The house wasn't the end goal. It was the entry point. A clean asset with a clean title. I leveraged it for something bigger. You were just in the way. It hit me then. This wasn't about a marriage, or betrayal, or even Sylvie who didn't exist. It was about power, and money, and men like Dean believing women like me were obstacles, not people. Conrad rose from behind a tree, limping, bleeding. A wolf cornered. You tried to double-cross me, he growled. Dean smiled. You were a means to an end. The two men faced each other, gun to gun, ego to ego. I whispered to Isla, when they shoot again, we move. She nodded, shaking. A quote floated back into my mind, one I hadn't thought of in years. When two monsters fight, the only winning move is to run. Tonight it was prophecy. The gunfire came louder than before. A blast. A scream. A second gunshot. I grabbed Isla. Now. We sprinted across the road into the trees. The snow swallowed our footsteps as we crashed through branches, ducking low, lungs burning. Behind us, a groan, a thud, silence. Mom, Isla gasped. Do you think they... Doesn't matter, I said. We're not done yet. Cut scene. A flashlight cut through the woods. Loretta, bloody, limping, but alive. She reached us and collapsed to one knee, breath shallow. I sent the messages, she said. Tracker was on Dean's truck. They were circling each other. You needed a window. You saved us, I whispered. She laughed once. Dry. Not yet. Behind her, two squad cars barreled down the iced road. Sirens muted by the snow, but bright enough to slice the night open. Sheriff Nolan jumped out first, gun drawn. Hands where I can see them. We stepped toward him, together, alive. Officers swarmed the woods. Shouts, radio calls, flashlights scanning every trunk. Then one officer yelled, Got one! Conrad, face down, shot through the shoulder, breathing barely. Another officer called out, second suspect down, still alive. Dean, on his back, staring up at the sky like he couldn't believe he'd lost. Nolan cuffed him. You're under arrest for fraud, conspiracy, attempted homicide. Dean looked past him, straight at me. You think this ends with me, he rasped. You have no idea who you crossed. I stepped forward. Calm. Maybe not, but I know who I survived. His face broke then, anger collapsing into something hollow. Fear. He was escorted into the cruiser, head bowed. And just like that, the man who once smiled in church was gone. Cut scene. Hours later, after statements were taken and evidence collected, the sun began to rise over Cooper Hollow. The sky turned bruised violet. Snow glittered on the fields like shards of glass. I stood outside the house, my house, and exhaled the first breath that didn't hurt. Isla leaned her head on my shoulder. Do you think it's over? No, I said honestly, but it's beginning to be. Loretta approached us slowly, arm bandaged. His ledger, the hard drive, what you found in that shack. It's enough to take down the whole network. People higher than Dean. People who thought they were untouchable. People always think that, I murmured, until someone shines a light. Loretta nodded. You did more than survive tonight. You exposed something that's been bleeding this state for years. Isla squeezed my hand. We're going to be okay, right? I looked at her, my daughter, bruised but unbroken. The girl who ran into the dark but came back stronger. We're going to be okay, I said, because we know who we are now. There's a line I once heard. Home isn't the walls you build. It's the courage to keep standing after they fall. Our walls were damaged. Our trust was shattered. Our lives were cracked open, but we were standing. The sheriff walked toward us then, handing me my phone. "One last thing," he said. "This came in about an hour ago. A message from an unknown number. Just 3 words. This isn't finished." My hands tightened around the phone, but I didn't flinch, because fear wasn't driving me anymore. Truth was. And truth, once unlocked, never goes back into the dark.